Let's get straight into it with the mail. And the EU is demanding member states create ministries of truth. They must be trolling us at this point, Nicholas. This is ridiculous.
No, this is your typical EU, just as if we didn't need more reasons to be happy for having left it. EU is accused of taking a page out of Orwell's 1984 with the creation of ministries of truth that will ensure wrong thoughts are not allowed in a bid to tackle disinformation online.
Where's the Mail quoting that wrong thoughts are not allowed? Is that in the official pamphlet?
It's a Romanian MP. So this whole article just basically is all around the thoughts
MEP,
of...
remember?
Christian terrorists, whatever.
Okay, but sorry, Nicholas, go on, I interrupt
you. Basically, there's this new EU legislation called Digital Services Act, which has just come into effect, and they force platforms such as Twitter, Facebook, and lots of others to come up with, and this is what he means by Ministry of Truth, so-called a network of trusted flaggers to flag so-called disinformation, harmful content, and so on and so forth. These, who facts the fact checkers, the same argument.
Trusted by whom was my question.
Exactly. So these are, because we've had it in the world of fact checking. I mean, Facebook was already using them. These are institutes or sometimes branches of mainstream legacy media who fact check you, so to speak. And now we are going to have more of these in different European countries to signal potential harmful or wrong information. And then if the platforms are not prompt enough to remove these, they will face hefty fines, sometimes as much as 6% of their annual income, which means obviously they will maybe err on the side of caution and therefore fiercely censor content.
So this applies to both member states and, like you say, online platforms. And if it wasn't sinister enough, when Elon Musk opted out of the voluntary version of this, the European EU Commissioner said you can run but you can't hide, which is just like very sinister EU stuff. What do you think, Josh? Is there any other take on this?
Yeah, well, look, it's a balancing act because the fact is there is Russian disinformation out there. There are bad actors at play using these platforms. There is child abuse and pornography out there. So there is a need for the EU to take action. Now, the question is getting the balance right, where it goes too far or veers into the 1984 thing. Also, some people might sort of see this as a sort of conspiracy of the idea that we're being controlled by these companies or by the people who are then controlling the companies. But at the same time, it's, we did see supposed misinformation come out during COVID that turned out to be valid. And then it's, I personally think that it's not like that there's the conspiracy idea that this, but I do think that people are lazy, or by people I mean the people running the narrative in the newspapers. They don't want to investigate further. They want to go along with whatever narrative it is and don't want to challenge it. And that's where the danger comes from. It comes from journalists not doing their job. Now, I'm not a journalist. I just read what journalists do, but you can tell. And I believe they failed during things like COVID and whatnot.
Absolutely. I mean, if it was the real truth, whenever you hear Ministry of Truth, it's not going to be the actual truth, is it? Then we'd all be behind it. But it's obviously the Orwellian double-speaking. You go, OK, that's not going to be true. What it's going to be, surely... I take your point about things like child abuse stuff, and you say maybe they have to do something. The problem is the EU is already inherently undemocratic. And then you get this sort of stuff on top. And it seems to me, Nicholas, the problem is it's just a sort of liberal elite's failure on a grand scale to engage with the people and their real struggles and their real opinions. Isn't it just they've lost control of the narrative, the EU and these other large bodies, and they're just saying we have to suppress, we have to decide what's misinformation, harmful content. There's even now malinformation, which is true information, but that they think is dangerous to release. Did you know that? There's misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation.
Whatever they can hang on to suppress information that is inconvenient. Now, of course, the proposals come from the EU Commission, which is not democratically elected, and we should remember that although the European Union has a parliament, the parliament cannot initiate legislation. They can only act on proposals by the Commission, so which holds the sole right to generate legislation. Anyway, having said that, this is already legislation anyway. And what we see that, for example, in terms of Russian disinformation, for 4 years, legacy media banged on about it, it came to nothing. I think this is just legacy media who have become the
So
megaphone.
you're saying there isn't such a thing as Russian disinformation?
I'm saying either there is not, or if there is, not to the magnitude that justifies such a draconian measures. Because in the U.S. they had hundreds of pages of investigation, and ultimately Trump is right now indicted for 4 charges. None of them has anything to do with Russia.
No, but that's not. But we're talking about what's happening with Germany and whatnot. Russia has been proven to be putting this information out there and to be trying to affect elections and whatnot. This isn't.
Well,
you know,
I think that's probably a massive other debate.